Thanks, Tom, for the music. Appreciate that. We'll go ahead and call the meeting of the, yes, let's give Tom a hand. I don't know if everybody online can hear Tom's music, but wanted to tell everybody that's with us online, I think you guys can see him. Brandy, thanks so much. Brenda Hodges-Tiller, Carl Todd, Suzanne, William Edwards, and William Rambo. So glad that you guys could join us. Renee is going to have you guys muted, but if you wish to speak, please just raise your hand and he will make sure that you get equal time. How about that? All right. We've got some guests with us today. Lou?
Please have my daughter and associate Alex.
Hey, Alex. We're always glad to see you. There are some people that just aren't really considered guests anymore, in my opinion. Alex is one of them. I see another one with Susan. Hey, Kimberly, so glad you could be with us today. We also have some faces we hadn't seen in a while. So glad to see Dale with us today. She's been joining us online. I'm not trying to call you out, but it is good to see you in person. Now, you've been joining us online. And Rusty, we're glad to see you. Who else have we not seen in a while? Anyway, so glad to see everyone. And of course, we have our guest with us today that'll be providing the program. I'll call on Ivy shortly to introduce him. He should be no stranger to anyone. As you all know, and I've been reminding everybody of this, the USG is now requiring everybody that joins us on our campus, faculty, staff, students, and visitors, they are now mandated to wear a mask in our facilities. Of course, we know that y'all are all eating, but when you do finish, we want to make sure that you guys mask back up, and also want to say thank you to Brandy for starting back up I hate that you're having to start your COVID reports back up with the hospital, but I did catch the one that you just had. As far as the increase in cases, and it's not news we wanted to hear, but certainly something that we need to be aware of. And so we're asking everybody to please do your part to wear a mask, wash your hands frequently, please social distance when you can, and avoid large groups. Of course, we are trying to do that here. We are spread out a little bit more than usual, and but please do your part to make sure that we don't continue the spread, and we hope that this is all going to be over soon. Wouldn't that be nice? All right, we do have some masks that we have. If you guys need some extra, or you know someone who could use some extra, we've got packs of 5 over here on the table that have been provided by our Mask Up Americas initiative. So please, if you would like to, please grab a pack of those before you leave, or if you know someone who could really use some, please feel free to take one of those with you when you leave. It's a little favor. All right. Before I go any further, I'd like to call on Kenny Phillips, please, to provide our invocation.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this group that's gathered here right now, Lord. We ask that you will bless this time together and bless the mission of the Rotary Club. Thank you for this lunch. Bless us in the nourishment of our body. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Kenny. All right. K1 couldn't be with us today. They've got the press conference and tour of the Civil Rights Center, the former colored hospital, and so he and Nicole are covering that today, and we're excited about that facility and what it will do for our community and the history that will be preserved there. I do know that he announced everyone's birthdays and anniversaries last week, but we did want to make sure that Brad Ward got a happy birthday today. Colonel Eric Bryant will have a birthday on the 30th, and Brandon Van and Sybil Smith celebrated yesterday. So happy birthday to everyone. Any sunshine dollars?
Let it not be said that I'm a praise where I will also reprimand please figure out a way to get half of that to each of our servers at the dining room and tell them that the food has been excellent the last 2 meals.
I'm not sure if you were here when we announced that we do have a new food vendor, Aladdin, and we do have, we are getting very good reports on the food, so thank you very much, and I know that they will appreciate that as well. We are glad to say that we do have some familiar faces that are staying with us, so appreciate that. Any other sunshine dollars? All right, Renee.
I want to put some in here for Phoebe Sumter and the good work they've done taking care of her ankle. She finished her last treatment last week.
Yeah, it felt good to ring the bell. Did you hear that, Brandy? We're just singing the praises of your people over there. All right, any other sunshine dollars? Danny
One more for
Atkins.
me, please,
Okay.
Madam President. I would like to put in $1 to recognize all the schools and students. I know this is a trying time for them, particularly the younger, smaller kids and all trying to get to school. But my youngest child is starting at Southwestern shortly, and I will remind her of her need for a mask.
Thank you, thank you. We actually, Southwestern, I think, is providing masks for all students. It's my understanding. All right, any other sunshine dollars? Any condolences or well wishes? Anybody heard anything more from Dr. Herron? Is he out at the hospital yet? Carl? We got to unmute him. Hang on a minute.
Bill, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, Jim got back home from Emory a couple days ago, and it was a lot better diagnosis that he was afraid of. I think he has some infection in his gallbladder, but antibiotics ought to be able to put him over the top.
That's good news. Good news. Thank you, Carl, for that report. We sure do miss seeing him. All right. Any other condolences or well wishes? Okay. Any community announcements?
Kimberly and I were on the way over here, and we've got to check with the schools, but she came up with a great idea. You've seen the pictures on Facebook where ideas of social distancing classrooms with the 4x4 little area with the plastic painting. She has priced that cheaper. $245 for 28 like $465. So she's gonna talk with the different schools, especially the younger grades, and then maybe put it out to community for some possibly funding. Maybe you want to support a class or you want to support a class. So if the younger grade schools are on board with it, we might be coming back to you guys to see if maybe personally or as a club we might want to support a class or two with the dividers. So just an idea to keep in the back of it.
Good idea. Thank you. Any other community announcements? Okay. Any club announcements? You'll see a couple of things in your bulletin. Of course, we are going to do the school supply drive-through on August 6th. I want to thank America's Police Department for heading that up and partnering with all the organizations that did it separately last year. We're all going to come together, hopefully, and do one large drive-through at Central Baptist Church on the 6th, starting at 3 o'clock. Rotary has already ordered notebooks and pencils and sharpeners, and then we'll be bagging those up. So I may be calling on a few of you guys to help stuff those closer to time. The notebooks will also have the 4-way test on them. All right. Well, I know that y'all don't want to just hear me talk. I know that y'all are really here to hear Jess. So want to, before Ivy comes up to introduce him, I wanted to bring your attention to something that our club has. I'm not even sure if Jess knows this, but The club has a fellowship named for Jess's great-grandfather, Robert Duncan McNeill. And I didn't realize that's where Duncan's name came from, so baby Duncan. The Robert McNeill Fellowship is awarded to Rotary members who, in the previous year, donated $100 each to the Rotary Foundation, the GRSP Endowment, and the Special Fund. And that entails donations to a club fundraiser. So if you wrote a check to Harvest of Hope for a fundraiser that we did, or school supplies or whatever, that would be something that would count toward that special fund. We had hoped to have someone to award this to today. We thought it would be so cool, but because we've really didn't figure out that special fund piece, it was kind of hard to track. So what I'm doing now is challenging you guys. We would love to be able to give this fellowship next year. And so as you think through your donations this year, and if you would like to be considered for that and to qualify for the McNeill Fellowship, we would love to be able to give that out and start bringing back some of those awards that our club has put together. Excuse me. So plan accordingly, and hopefully we'll bring Jess back and let him be with us when we award next year. So I'll call on Ivy Oliver to come and introduce our special guest.
Good afternoon. I'm excited to introduce our guest, which many of y'all know Jess, but he is a 7th generation farmer here in Sumter County. After graduating Southland Academy, he attended the University of Georgia, where he received the bachelor's in forest resources and a master's in business. Jess moved back to the farm with his wife, Mary Beth, in 2012, and currently produces corn and peanuts. In 2014, Jess created Legacy Agriculture to work alongside the farm and branch out into other business opportunities. Legacy works with biological agriculture companies around the country on product development and testing. Legacy is also a distributor of soil amendments and bioag products. So Jess and his wife, Mary Beth, have 3 very active boys, John Davis, Duncan, and Cooper. Jess?
Thank y'all for having me. I'm excited to be here because I love talking about this stuff. We're going to be interactive, so I'm going to ask you questions. You're going to have to raise your hand or something like that, and then at the end, you can ask me questions, and I'll do my best to answer. So when I say biological agriculture, if you immediately something comes to mind and you say, I know what that is, raise your hand. Okay, good. I'm just getting the lay of the land here. And speaking of Paul Robert, as I knew him, in a roundabout way that I hope I'm going to be able to paint a picture for y'all, he is an inspiration for my venture down this rabbit hole that is biological agriculture. So I'm going to explain what that is and what my role in it is now and in the future, hopefully. But I'm also going to kind of explain and kind of lay out where we've been and where we've come from. I'm a history buff, love history. I'm the family historian. So I think it's important to know where we've been in order to know where we're going. So you won't be able to see this, but this is something I keep in my study. This is a certificate from the state of Georgia to R.D. McNeill. He joined the Bale and a Half Cotton Club in 1958. We got a few of these, but this was the one that was closest to get. So in 1958, this is to certify that R.D. McNeill, Jr. and Sons of Sumter County in 1958 produced 776 pounds of lint cotton per acre on 47.6 acres. He joined the Bale and a Half Club. That was a big deal back then. So let me lay the landscape for you. So I'm the 7th generation to farm right here, the same place he farmed. If you take the center pivot irrigations that you see out all over the place, if you take that off the land, has that yield changed any? The answer is not really. We're making the same kind of cotton we were here almost 70 years later on dry land. But the difference that what has changed, you might know what a price of a gallon of gas was in 1958. 24 cents a gallon. The John Deere tractor, the most popular John Deere tractor in 1958 was a 720. They made it in a diesel model and gasoline. Cost you $5,000. The most popular John Deere tractor you'll see in our surrounding area right now is a 8245. It'll cost you $270,000. You'll love this one, Dr. Lou. Tuition to the University of Georgia, 1958, $275. Now, in state, you might get a break and get by about 20 grand for in state. So much has changed, but really and truly, we're still making about a bale and a half to 2 bales on a great year in cotton around here, which is king. Cotton is king. As I got back to the farm and was farming, I saw that and I said, for this farm to be viable for my boys, of which I have 3, something's got to change. We've got to do something different. Every year it's the same story. We need more inputs, more fertilizer. To accomplish the same yields, we need more, we need more, we need more. Fuel costs more, electricity costs more. In my career as a farmer, water is going to cost a lot more. So I said, we got to do something different if the next generation is going to be able to make a good living, going forward. And another note, back then in 1958, not only was R.D. McNeill Jr. and Sons making a good living, but there were 5 or 6 other families that lived and worked on that farm that made livings as well. So that got me thinking in a different way about agriculture and about farming. What can we do differently? What can we adjust? How can I adapt, going forward so that my boys are given a great gift like I was of a paid for good farm. I'm a steward of that farm. So what can I do to improve our environment for them one day? So that got me looking into biological agriculture. So where we've been kind of personally. Now I'm going to tell you where we've been as an industry. The last 50 years of agriculture have seen vast improvements from technology to, and that's mechanical technology, seed technology, chemistries, lots of different advances that have made the United States the #1 ag producer in the world, and it's not even close. Not only do we produce the most, but we produce the best crops worldwide. One thing we've kind of forgotten as we've ramped up that production, we've kind of just forgotten our soils, our land. I would venture to say we might have taken it for granted some. I know I did, because we had farmers throw around the terms, well, you got good land, well, you got bad land. I'm blessed to be on good land. I took it for granted. So as we have ramped up production over the last 5 decades in agriculture, we've made huge strides in chemistries and seed treatments and things like that to help us do a better job farming, to affect yield. Same way we've seen it in medicine on the human body. We've had great advances in chemistries, different treatment options. It's very, very similar. Now we've almost reached a plateau on the farm. Our yields in a lot of ways have plateaued. yet our inputs continue to increase and we get pinched. The margin is razor thin, especially right now. Not only do we have razor thin margins, we have hurricanes, we have trade wars, we have whatever. It's just a lot of adversity right now. So I'm thinking about, so back in Jess's mind, I'm thinking about my boys, but I'm also thinking about this industry that I'm a part of. And, what can I do for the next generation to set them up locally, right here on our piece of dirt, but also if they want to farm one day, what knowledge can I share to them? What can I do to help them be a viable farmer and make a living off that in the future? So that got me back into this. I kept hearing and seeing in kind of obscure magazines, biological ag. What is this? So I dove into it, and if I could give you a definition of biological agriculture, that's a really long thesis of what a definition is. But the dumbed down South Georgia way of telling you what it is I'm using bugs and funguses and bacterias to get the same results that I've been using chemistries to get. So in the last decade, there has been a tremendous amount of advance in growing, harvesting, and directing different strains of bacteria, funguses, you name it, all kinds of bugs. We're just going to call it bugs just as a blanket term, the bugs. And a lot of this research has gone kind of underneath the radar because all the chemistries are in the hands of about 3 companies. In case you wanted to know, 80%, about 84% of all of our globally seed technology and chemistries are in the hands of 3 companies. 3. That is not good for our food safety and security going forward. That's not good. One of them is ChemChina. One of them is Bayer BASF, which is in Germany. And one of them is Nutrien, which is Potash Corp of Canadians. There are no more major American players in agriculture, chemistry, and seed technology. That's concerning to me going forward. What there is a lot of small companies, a lot of them family owned, that have trademarks and patents on certain types of bugs and these biological ag products that are trying to achieve and claim to have achieved some of the same results that our chemistries have. But because most of agriculture is controlled by 3 big companies, nobody really knows about them. The words, it's hard to find them, hard to get involved with them. So I got involved with one company in particular. That was the start, that they make peanut inoculant. So I grow peanuts. This is, peanut country. And so that's how I got involved. That was my first foray. This company makes peanut inoculant. When you inoculate peanuts or any crop, that is a biological stimulant that you're putting on the seed. Now, there's multiple ways to apply it, but it is a biological stimulant. It is Rhizobium bacteria. So getting involved with them, they also have another whole line of biological products, and I started testing. Worked with their agronomist. He said, we've got other things we'd like to test in the peanuts. We can't get it to test anywhere. We can't get it in to university trials. We can't get it in third-party trials because nobody will listen to us. So I said, sure, you give it to me. I'll give it a shot. I'll try anything. I like trying new things. So I did that for about a year and saw unbelievable results. We had incredible plant health. It is not for the faint of heart. I live in the middle of my farm, so I get to watch it every day, which is nice. That's a blessing. So you have to watch it. You have to give them good feedback. And I saw some good results. I said, wow, this is, there may be something to this. I also have my almost 70-year-old dad who has been farming all his life. And he said, man, there's something to that. Well, that really got my head going, because if I can convince John McNeill that doing something different produces at least equal results to what we've been doing, then hey, I'm on to something. So we kept going. I kept going, and it's a brand new world. I like to call it the tip of the spear. There are lots of companies out there who are claiming specific types of bugs and funguses targeted at this in corn, targeted at this in peanuts or in cotton. I'm just scratching the surface. I'll tell you this, it's energized me more about farming and about the future than anything else has, because we're not making a whole lot of money right now. Everything's really cheap. Things are really expensive. Pickup trucks, what, 40 grand? 1958, it was $2,000. So this has been really exciting. As we got further into this and testing different products, seeing their results, we tested it in corn. I've got neighbors, friends who I've given products to, say, hey, throw this out there, see what you think. They see the same results. Ivy's husband tried some, same thing. He said, man, there's something to this. So that got me, I just keep digging into this. Again, it's hard to find these people, hard to find these companies. And that led me to a group down in Florida. A couple guys down in Florida, and this is where Legacy starts actually selling products. So I'm actually selling products as Legacy Ag, kind of retailing to different farmers. And I have got a relationship with some guys that they manufacture a product based in molasses that is feedstock for microbes, bugs, biology, all that kind of stuff. That's the feedstock. So they have a patent to make the filtration, to make it filter down enough that you can put it out there. So best example I can tell you, who likes honey buns? Everybody likes honey. If you don't like a honey bun, you're not American. But if you put a honey bun on a July day, if you threw it out in your yard and left it for 4 days, you come back, it might not even take that long. But is there anything growing on it? Usually something nasty, some kind of nasty stuff. Well, bugs like sugar. We have starved our soils of sugar for the last 50 years. There is no sugar source for these bugs. There's no feedstock. Sugar is a simple feed. No feedstock for these bugs. So I started using these products. I apply it multiple ways. We apply it directly with the seed. If I'm applying a bug or biological amendment to a seed or to a plant, I put the sugar with it and it supercharges it. I put the sugar, the feedstock, or carbohydrate would be the scientific term. Put that out in the soil applied, foliar applied, any kind of way to apply it. That feeds the native biology in the soil. When you go to Lowe's and you get something to plant in your garden, you're going to get some nice black, loose, nice potting soil. I'm trying to create that in the field. That's what I'm trying to create in the field, is the same. I want what's in that bag in that field. That's really hard to do on a macro level. And one of the things that we have done over the last 50 years with all the chemistries, we've kind of over applied, and we've really put ourselves behind the 8 ball as far as having agronomic margin in the dirt, in the soil. So I've got up with these guys from Florida that are making a feedstock. We're applying that heavily in the soil. And Legacy is actually selling that product. I've sold a semi-truckload of it this year, just to local farmers. People are very interested in biological ag. How can we achieve the same results without the chemistries, because the chemistries are really expensive. This stuff is really cheap. It's a byproduct of the big sugar down in Florida. It's molasses. It's cane syrup. You can eat it. It's safe. You don't have to have a hazmat to carry it. I've shipped it UPS. I've shipped it to Texas, to North Carolina, South Carolina, all over. That's one of the beauties of it. It's one of the things I'm attracted to about it. I can leave this to my kids because it's not going to hurt them. So that's a good thing. But I'm sorry, I got a little sidetracked. Let me get back to the dirt, because that's what y'all are here to learn about is dirt, right? For me to talk about is dirt. Just this morning, I wanted to go see if I could pull this off because I knew I was coming to talk with y'all. Just this morning, I was in a peanut field and was digging up roots. I love digging up roots. That's how I see if the things that I'm doing are working. And my first stop in a peanut field, dig up some roots, throw them over, and I see 2 earthworms intermixed in my peanuts. That makes me as proud as high yields. Because what that means, guys, is that those earthworms can live and be viable in that soil, then that means nutrients, the soil compaction, all those things are in balance. And if those things are in balance, then I'm going to make some good peanuts. And I'm not going to have to spend a whole lot on them to protect them because I've got a well-balanced biosphere that I'm growing in, or a well-balanced medium. It's a growth medium. The soil is a growth medium. And if it's in balance, then I'm going to make a better crop. I'm going to spend less money on it, which is going to be more money in my pocket, which is going to mean a more secure family business. And that's my mission with Legacy Ag. It is as I said before, it's very concerning to me that 84% of the world's seed technology and ag chemical technology is in the hands of 3 companies. That upper level consolidation will trickle down to the farm. It will. It has to. Your food is better. Your food security is better. Your food's cheaper. I think our county is better. Our town, our country is better when we have lots of independent, secure, financially secure family businesses dotting the map. That is a win-win for everybody, for non-farmers and for farmers. My fear in the future is that consolidation that we've seen way up high, it will trickle down to the farm. We don't want that. You don't want that, because all it takes is for 3 guys to get together in somebody's hunting cabin, and the price of milk or the price of eggs or whatever goes up 40%. So my mission with Legacy is to connect farmers, producers with products, companies, whoever that can help them become more independent with a specialization in biological agriculture, because I've seen the benefits of biological ag. It has helped me on our farm. We have cut fungicide use by 50% on peanuts. Not saying we don't need it, but we don't need it like we used to. We're being more efficient in our nutrient uptake. We're making some of the best yields we've ever made, and we're doing it with 25% less than anybody else is across the board because of these biological products. I believe in them that much. I believe in them that much that I'm willing to sell them, retail them, buy a bunch of inventory and sell it. And it's been very well received. And I think as we go forward into the future, you as the consumers are going to hear a lot more about this, because it is the way of the future. We've gotten to the point where we're creating chemistries to fix problems created by chemistries in agriculture. That's a plateau. So one of the reasons I think I'm seeing great results on our farm and in the area is because we've got 50 years of doing it one way. Now we're feeding the soil with biology. We're feeding the soil with carbohydrates, and the soil is just saying, yes, thank you. And it's turning us back. You know, that, how many hundreds of thousands of tons of fertilizer did Paul Roberts spread in that dirt? You would think at some point I wouldn't have to keep spreading, or not as much, but every year, well, you gotta have more, you gotta have more, you gotta have more. Something's gotta change. So that's how the inspiration from Paul Robert comes, is that something had to change. And like I said, the results are exciting to me. You're going to be hearing a lot more about this in the future. And if you're not, ask about it, because as consumers of farm products, you need to be concerned about where your food comes from first and foremost. That's why, sidebar, you're not paying for this, but Jif and Peter Pan peanut butter is the only one you need to buy. That's it. They're the only ones that are 100% U.S. grown peanuts. So you're useless information for the day. But A, you need to know where your food comes from. And secondly, you need to know how it's produced. And it makes me prouder to produce what I'm producing the way I'm producing it now. When I can produce, make good yields, and earthworms are happy, I'm happy, my family's happy. That's a win-win for everybody. That's what we're trying to get to. So ask about it. Look for this. Google biological ag. You'll read some really interesting stuff out there. A lot of these companies are family owned. They own their own labs. They own their own. They own the trademarks on this stuff. It's really interesting stuff. It's new. It's tip of the spear, and it's coming, whether we like it or not. It's definitely coming, and that's a good thing. Like I said, it's a good thing that's where we're heading in agriculture. Questions? Shoot.
Biological products. Put it in the ground and plant seed.
Some of them. The application process is at planting. When I'm applying bugs, I do it at planting, and I've got a way, I mix it up in a solution, and I dribble it on every seed that drops in the ground, drops in the seed trench. And the idea with these products is you get them on there then, and they never leave. They live on that root, whereas chemistries leach out of the soil. And while that plant's alive, this biology is alive. It lives on the root. It's a stress mitigator. And the idea is you pack enough stress mitigators on top of each other, and you need 100 pounds less nitrogen for your corn, or you need 3 less fungicide applications on peanuts. So there's a lot of different ways to apply them, but that's how I apply them, is at planting. And then I feed them all year long. We're feeding them lots of different ways with the carbohydrate, with the sugar, all year long. What else? Somebody else had a question, I thought.
Do they have different ones for, they already make different ones for different crops?
It depends on the bug. One of the most widely used bugs is called trichoderma, and one of the companies I work with, they send me stuff to try. They're based out of Ohio, and they have a lab in upstate New York where they petri dish. I mean, it's like, elementary science project. They petri dish this stuff out, and they have a strain of trichoderma that's going to go on cotton. They have a strain that's going to go on corn. They have it for forage crops, for sod, you name it, for ornamentals and vegetables. You name it. But trichoderma is a very widely used strain of fungus, is what it is. And it's yes, the answer is yes. It's crop specific.
And follow-up, so will farmers have to buy a special applicator?
No, it's 75% of farming operations are set up to do this already. The reason it's taking longer to take root is these companies, Legacy Ag, I don't offer a Hawaii trip at the end of the year if you buy a lot of stuff. It's also really cheap, and there's a misnomer out there. I fall prey to this as a consumer myself. If it's expensive, it must be good, and that's not always the case, especially in agriculture. Some of the things that we were doing in 1958, we should have never got away from them because, again, yield's the same. The yield's the same. But we got away from them because somebody pulled up to our farm and said, hey, man, I got something for you. And if you buy enough of it, you go to Hawaii at the end of the year. Anybody else? In some ways, the best way to describe it, Dr. Lou, is it is helping in the efficiency of that plant. So it is helping that plant grow more efficiently and be healthier. Peanuts, for instance, right now is white mold season. Just mold, soil-borne diseases, hammer peanuts right now. Well, I've got piles of pictures that I can show you, but I've got peanut roots that are treated, that are big around as my thumb, vines that are bigger around as my thumb. The untreated are as big around as this pin. So which plant has the better chance of thriving? This one over here. Same way, it's a very close correlation to just overall health and wellness. Very similar thing. If you want to stave off cancer, you got a better chance to be in relatively good health. It's not always the case, but you got a better chance. $0.64 a pound right now. About what it is. Corn, my first year farming, to tell you how the volatility goes, my first year farming, like not because I had to, not because Dad told me go get on the tractor, was 2012. We sold corn at $8 a bushel, cotton at $1.10 a pound, and peanuts at $1,000 a ton. This year, don't have any cotton planted this year, but cotton's going for 64 cents a pound. Peanuts are going for $400 a ton, and corn is at $3.28. Last I checked. And I think this is more of our norm than what I experienced in my first year farming. I said, golly, what have you been doing all this time, Dad? And I remember him saying, it's not always like this. That was the peak for his lifetime. For Dad's, career as a farmer, that was 2011, 12, and 13 was the peak. But now we have such great advances in seed technology, equipment efficiencies, all those things. I don't think we're going to see yields go up and down like they used to. We've mitigated a lot with irrigation. We've got tractors that drive themselves. I think we've hammered out a lot of those peaks and valleys to where now we've got to figure out a way to produce what we're producing far more efficiently agronomically, not necessarily mechanically, but agronomically. We've got to find margin in the soil, and that's been my mission, is finding that margin in the soil. And I believe I found it. And like I said, I've got John McNeill, who's seen a lot. He's seen a lot of crops, and he says, this works. He said, it really works. And that's been a huge confidence boost as I kind of go forward with Legacy, and selling this stuff, working with different companies as an influencer. This stuff really does work. It's not snake oil. It's biology. It's what God gave us to work with. But, man, we do our best to pervert some of that stuff. And we're just kind of returning back to it. It's been really interesting to play with different things and see how they work.
I know that relatively new
tip of the spear.
But it does make me wonder, as the reduction in chemical dependence declines and you introduce more natural biology
Mhm.
to the soil, if that also impact health. And,
You're thinking a lot about this stuff right now, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah, I know. I've been there. And I guess I should give a shout out to my mom. My late mother is also part of my inspiration for this, because we've got to go, we just got to do things a little differently. And, you know, when cancer hits home, you start thinking about what you've been eating over the years and how that impacts your body. I mean, you know, good in, good out, bad in, bad out. It's not to say there's not exceptions, but that is in my mind too, as I go forward with legacy of, okay, what can we do if I can maintain my yields in production agriculture and do it with sustainable products that are safer, not just safer to handle. I mean, like the sugar that I'm selling, the feedstock, you wouldn't want to sop your biscuits just all over with it, but it is safe. There is no skull and crossbones on the jug. A lot of the other things we use on the farm, you have to have hazmat license. I have to have a pesticide license just to handle some of these things. And that's not to say we're not going to need pesticides and chemistries to fix things. But I do think we can do it with less dependence on that stuff. It's kind of like one of my friends from Florida, he made the comment, he said, "Who were the sickest kids at school?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "They were always going to the doctor, weren't they? And always on antibiotics. They were the sickest." I said, "Well, yeah, that kind of makes sense." And he said, "Our soul's sick. That's why we're having to constantly create new chemistries to fix problems, because our soul is sick." And little bitty tweaks go a long way doing this, removing certain elements from our production regimens, and not necessarily adding more, just removing some. We do a lot of things just because that's how we've been doing them, especially the southeastern farmer. We're very, very hard cookies. So just removing different practices sometimes can lead to great results. Anybody else?
There are some crops that it hasn't worked well. Mentioned a few that were finding success with.
I can't answer that effectively, but what I can say is that the things we're doing affect the roots of plants in the growth medium, which is the soil. So if it has a positive impact on X, it's going to have a positive impact on Y, because roots are the roots and the soil is the soil. I want to grow cotton in soil that has earthworms. I want to grow peanuts in soil that has earthworms. So I think there's different strains of bugs that may not have, for instance, we've got one strain that's coming out in 2021. Really excited about it. Nematodes. You may have heard that buzz term. Two biggest things that the Georgia farmer fights is nematodes and hogs. That's our two biggest things we fight, nematodes and hogs. Well, there are nematicides, which are fumigates. You put them out and they just kill everything. They're a kill-all. You sterilize the soil. Well, one of the companies I've worked with is coming out with a bio-nematicide. Again, it stays on that root. It does not leave. It doesn't leach out of the soil. However, if you're in an area that doesn't have nematodes, it's not really gonna help you that much. So it depends on the directive of the bug as to whether it works or doesn't work. But the general perspective and general mindset of feeding the soil and the bugs and the biosphere, that works on everything. We've got a lot of people I've visited blueberry farms and orange groves and golf courses, doing this, and it works. So it works.
Any other questions? Thank you, Jess.
Thank y'all.
Interesting program. Oh, goodness. All right. Well, thank you guys for being here. Jess, thank you for that interesting program. It's kind of thrilling stuff. I'm anxious to hear how it goes. So if you would, take a few minutes. Don't forget your cart buckets for Alzheimer's research. You got any loose change or even the folded kind? We take anything you want to throw in the bucket. Thanks so much. Thank you, Alex, for being here today. We always love seeing you. Kimberly, always glad to have you. Hopefully we'll get you a little more regular coming up. Thanks again, Jess, for all that you're doing, and thanks, Ivy, for introducing him. If you want to stand, we will recite the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill or better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Go ahead and pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all again for being here today. Thanks to everybody who joined us online. We are adjourned.